I'm honored to serve as state superintendent. Prior to my election, I was an educator for 25 years, serving as a teacher and a principal at all levels. As the third generation of Wisconsin women in my family to serve our children and communities as a teacher, I know firsthand the lasting benefits community service brings to those in need and those who volunteer and serve. Service learning provides us with a way to combine high-quality instructional practices with service to the community.
Our science club has started 3 years ago, testing water for the Seymour community and giving us a chance to really help the community. A lot of people actually in our area really don't realize that arsenic is a problem.
After learning about the harmful effects of the high levels of arsenic in Seymour's drinking water, the students of Seymour High School Science Club decided it was important to educate the community about the issue. The students received a grant from the Institute for Learning Partnership at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay to fund a free water testing program, which allowed the students to practice lab techniques they learned in science class while providing community members with an important service. Frequently, the Science Club gives presentations to the Seymour community about the different carcinogens found in water and invites citizens to have their water tested. The students also travel around the state giving presentations at service learning workshops. The Seymour High School Science Club developed a partnership with the Oneida Nation High School. The Seymour students provide the results of their arsenic tests, well-depth information, and health survey results. Then, using three-dimensional GIS software, the Oneida Nation students map the results. This collaboration has benefited the Seymour community by making it easier to predict wells that may contain high levels of arsenic. The students in the Seymour High School Science Club constantly evaluate the water testing project. Over the last 3 years, they have increased the number of water tests performed for the community, become increasingly knowledgeable about the water quality issues, and successfully recruited new members to Science Club by giving their presentation to 8th grade students. The water testing project has positively impacted the Seymour community and Science Club members. As a result of this experience, many Science Club students have pursued health and science-related degrees in college because they wanted to continue to serve their community after graduation.
Service learning is making that intentional connection between classroom learning and service to the community. The 4 core elements really are to infuse service into the academic curriculum, to connect in a meaningful way with the community outside the classroom walls, to engage in that ongoing process of reflection in growing and learning, and to empower youth leadership in creating civic outcomes.
As an educator, I've learned that service learning is the greatest way to teach. It gives students real-life experience with real people.
Cheryl Drevlo is a family and consumer education teacher in the Washburn Public School System. For the last 16 years, her 7th grade child development class has been involved in a service learning-based literacy program. In her child development class, Mrs. Drevlo's students learn the importance of reading to children at an early age. As a result, her students wanted to read to kindergartners to help them develop the skills necessary to become successful students later in life. Students from her 7th grade class decided to visit the Washburn kindergarten class once a month to read with them. To help the kindergarten student better understand the themes of the books, the 7th grade students also made board games about the books that they read. The 7th grade students are very involved with the creation and implementation of the program. Through the Child Literacy Project, the 7th grade students get to interact with the kindergarten students on a personal level and bring to life the concepts they learned in their child development class. The kindergartners love the opportunity to work with older students, and their monthly meetings excite them about reading books. At the end of the semester, the 7th grade students reflect on their experience through class discussion and journaling. In the future, Mrs. Drevlo hopes that this leadership experience will inspire students to be more involved citizens.
In Wisconsin, we understand the great need for our youth to become active in their communities and to understand that it's the responsibility of every citizen to make their community as strong as it can be. The education system must prepare this generation to be productive citizens of a society that will most likely operate very differently than you or I can even imagine. What creates true quality of life in our communities is the basic value of every man and woman to serve other people. To serve others, to interact with others in a positive way is a basic human value that must be taught at home, reinforced in our schools, and modeled in our communities. Service learning brings this to life, creating connections between the knowledge and skills we learn in the classroom and the good work that must be done in our communities to sustain a global, just society.
The students of the Saratoga Elementary School after-school program saw a need to revitalize the area around their school.
Today we're in an after-school program. We're planting all different kinds of flowers for the garden.
Hi, I'm Steve Shimolowski with UW Extension, Waukesha County. I'm a community educator. To me, service learning is another pedagogy for teachers and educators to use. To me, it's for the students to identify something they can change for the better, make a plan to make that change, follow through, and then reflect upon it.
The students decided to plant flowers around their school to make the neighborhood more beautiful and to encourage other members of the community to plant flowers. Building on the skills they first developed during after-school gardening workshops, the students chose the best places for the flowers, planted them, and were responsible for their care. Adult volunteers from the community worked with the students to help them learn how to garden. After the students had completed planting the garden, they discussed in a group what they had learned about gardening from their experience, how their gardening had impacted the community, and ways in which they could improve their project. The students decided they found the experience very rewarding and beneficial to the community, so next year they hope to start more gardening plots around the school.
Well, I believe it's a major responsibility of parents, schools, and communities to engage students in learning the value of service. Children must develop critical thinking skills and hands-on experience to be future citizens of our American democracy. The instructional methodology of service learning, one of the most promising innovations in education today, combines what is learned in the classroom with service to the community. It integrates community projects with classroom learning. A national study has determined that effective service learning programs help students improve their grades, increase attendance, and develop personal and social responsibility. What more could we ask from an educational program?
Today we're doing one of our community partnerships with the Heckrod Wetland Reserve.
Bill Sepnofsky has been teaching the Youth Service Learning course at Menasha High School since 1990. The Youth Service Learning course aims to take the valuable skills that students learn in the classroom and applies them to real situations in the Menasha community. The Youth Service Learning course is multidisciplinary, allowing students of any interest or grade level to become involved. 6 years ago, Menasha High School began a partnership with the Heckrod Wetland Preserve. Once a semester, the students of the Youth Service Learning course visit the preserve to assist with many projects, including building trails, flower beds, and bridges.
And there are 5 different activities that the students are engaged in today. Continuously expanding the works of the preserve. There's a major addition that's going on, which will become a prairie garden arboretum center.
Reflection is an important component of the Youth Service Learning course. Reflection is integrated on an ongoing basis throughout the semester through journals, class discussions, and debates. In the future, the Menasha Youth Service Learning course hopes to expand to include more collaborations with organizations in the Menasha community.
The two most significant pieces of advice I can give are to collaborate with your peers in growing professionally and to be patient with yourself and others as you work to bring about this change. We need to recognize that professional development doesn't come in big steps. It happens by making small changes that are consciously woven together and creating a new way of operating. Service learning is a meaningful way for students to learn and practice the skills that we're trying to teach. Give yourself time and opportunities to weave these new skills into your teaching. Gather support and encouragement from those around you as you provide that support to others.
After receiving a Learn and Serve grant from CISA 11, Prairie Farm Schools began a massive prairie restoration project. Coordinated by Steve Schaff, a social studies teacher at Prairie Farm Middle School, students, teachers, and the Prairie Farm community have joined together to rebuild an important part of the town's history. What began as a small project of Prairie Farm students and teachers has blossomed into a community-wide project. As a result of collaboration with the community, Prairie Farm students have received first-hand instruction from the Prairie Farm Fire Department, Spring Hills Nursing Home, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Department, and the Department of Natural Resources. The Prairie has been integrated into the curriculum of nearly every course at Prairie Farm. English students write poems and news articles. Art students do sketches and drawings. Tech ed students make signs and benches. In Schaff's social studies class, students are responsible for a prairie journal to help reflect on the concepts they learn in class. At the beginning of the year, students select a spot to observe. Then for the rest of the year, students are responsible for making frequent journal entries from the same place. Steve Schaff said the most rewarding thing about the Prairie Restoration Project has been watching his students develop the prairie from an empty field while building strong ties with the community and developing a strong sense of ownership and responsibility over the future of the prairie.
In Kenosha, service learning is in the district's strategic plan adopted last spring. They've hired a service learning coordinator through the AmeriCorps program, and they offer professional development in service learning for teachers. Greendale schools have implemented a service learning policy that was approved by their school board. Their hiring practices include service learning expertise as one of the criteria. They have a student-led service learning advisory group, and they have a student serving on their school board. Washington Elementary School in Stevens Point has integrated service learning projects throughout the school. At Webster Stanley Elementary School in Oshkosh, each grade identifies and completes a service learning project during the school year. And district administration in the Waupun schools supports service learning by encouraging teachers to become trained in service learning methodology. They've hired an AmeriCorps member to coordinate service learning among all of the elementary schools.
Fern Brown teaches 6th grade language arts and social studies at Medford Area Middle School. Every year, her students vote on a service learning project that will combine what they are learning in the classroom with an opportunity to serve the community. This year, the class unanimously voted to write books for Ugandan child refugees for the Memory Project, a nonprofit dedicated to raising awareness about the needs and rights of children around the world. Mrs. Brown's students did research to learn about the 18-year civil war in northern Uganda that has devastated the lives of countless children. Using criteria laid out on the Memory Project website, students researched and wrote stories about historical events, famous people, and the alphabet. Working in pairs, one student illustrates the book while the other writes the story. Students were responsible for every aspect of the book's production, from the page layout to the binding.
This was a real window into cultural diversity, first of all, for them. And they were able to see that children who have the same basic needs and same basic dreams as they do live in very different situations and under huge stresses, and I think that was what made them want to reach out and connect with these children.
Reflection is an important part of this service learning course. Throughout the year, students journal about their experiences learning about Uganda and working on their books. Videos, pictures, and articles about the Ugandan refugees are used as a starting point for their reflections. From this experience, Mrs. Brown's students have become interested in learning more about Africa and the rights of children worldwide, and in the future hope to continue educating people about the Civil War in Uganda.